build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty. This is episode 153. Joined tonight by Colin and John. John, how are you doing?
All right. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Good. Yeah. You enjoying your weekend?
I'm enjoying this weekend. Aye. The Bairns been on the amoxicillin, the sort of weirdly banana flavoured stuff. After we discovered that she had an ear infection that she was battling me last week when it was just me and her. So aye, this weekend's been a lot better.
Have you been taking some of the banana flavoured medicine yourself?
I've been taking some of the dregs, the leftover. Because she's sort of so we normally give her it with her breakfast or at least the last dose that she had. She sort of laps away at it, like how the sort of traditional medicine spoons were like the wee white ones, and they were sort of like cupped. Well, this one's it's a bit different. So we kind of give it like hold it up to her mouth, and she'll sort of like lap away at it like a cat. But then there's just this like wee sort of like bit left over that she can't get to. So I'm like, fuck, because I quite like the stuff.
Do you not get the wee
I drink it like a
syringes?
milkshake.
The wee syringes are better.
We've got the wee syringes for the Calpol and for a cough syrup that we got. And it's the exact same measurement. It's 5 mils, but for whatever reason, the wife decided that she was going to use the medicine spoon provided.
The wee syringes make ideal super soakers for small people. Just for when it's the summer, in case any of them come round to your house for a water fight, keeps them handy.
A lot of refueling though.
Yeah, a lot of refueling.
But what if this could go really off topic? But what if you got like one of those Calpol syringes, but you just made it massive, like suck up an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool and just started blasting cunts with it?
Like a big water cannon.
Aye.
Should try and make it. Could be a summer project for us, John.
Aye.
It's too much work in that for me. Like I'm out. It's you wouldn't be able to lift it. No, 50 metre pool with water in it.
No, we need a truck or something. But I know a man that's got a truck that might be able to help us out.
Aye. Colin, how are you doing? We'll just try and get back on topic.
Aye, whatever the topic is.
Talking yet.
I'm all right. Just maybe bashing about. I was at the Women's Cup final this afternoon, so I'm back. Went extra time, and I knew it would go extra time. Text you earlier, says this will go extra time.
Aye.
Never went to penalties though, so I got away with a flyer. Didn't wait for the trophy presentation or anything.
Who was playing and who won?
It was Celtic against Glasgow City, and it was 3-2 to Celtic after extra time.
Apologies if you were avoiding the score to watch it later.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But I'll leave it. Never mind.
Just imagining some sort of episode of The Likely Lads where folk are waiting for match of the day later on the night.
Okay. So we're in the bad books now. Did you watch the Champions League last night?
Mm-hmm.
Aye, I was a bit bored by it. I thought it was quite shit.
Finals, Champions League finals, that can be a bit boring. There's no often it. You go, that was a really good game. It does happen, but not very often.
I called it. We're going to win it. You just knew they'd nick a goal and then just sit in, which is pretty much what they did, try to catch them on the break. But
3 finals Liverpool's been in this season, they've not scored a goal.
That's mental, eh? Because you've got quite a good forward line as well. It's not like they're relying on somebody like Cole Stockton or somebody like that to kind of get goals for them there.
Yeah, it's a nice wee segue there, Matthew.
Aye, I know. It's like how I did that.
It's like, bro.
What gave me my call last night was obviously the pundits had that extra time to fill at the start of before the game kicked off because they were sorting out all the issues with the crowd, and they were talking about Liverpool winning by 4 or 5 goals. They're like, I think the Madrid defence will be able to keep up with them. Will they cope? Liverpool don't have to worry about they can push their defenders right up. They don't have to worry about defending and all this kind of stuff. I'm going, it's fucking Real Madrid. Like they've already beat City and was it PSG they knocked out as well and
Chelsea
as well.
Inter Milan, I think, as well. It was like one of the toughest routes in terms of names of clubs that you go.
So
last 16 Inter Milan, PSG in the quarters, Chelsea in the.
And then Michael Owen after this is Liverpool were the best team in the world. And Rio Ferdinand says it, but they've not even won the Red League. He goes, yeah, but they are still, but they've not won this cup either. No, but they are still the best. You're like, fuck yeah,
Michael Owen is a walking, talking tube. Like the things like how I didn't understand how it is that he's got the position that he does, commentating on the things that he commentates on, when he comes out with absolute bullshit. So you mentioned there about like some of the teams that Real Madrid had put out. Michael Owen was talking about the world beaters that Real Madrid had to get to beat on their way out of their group, and it was one of them was that FC Sheriff, was it Albania? I think was it. I want to say it was like Shakhtar. I forget who the third one was, but it wasn't world beaters. Like obviously good enough to be competing in the Champions League, but not in the sort of the upper echelons of the cream of European football. Just they talk shit.
That extra 40 minutes of them was fucking horrendous though. It was like, it's funny. I was talking to one of the dads at my daughter's football this morning, who isn't he, as far as I know, a listener. And he goes, he mentions exactly that, right? He says, that was terrible. He says, I was just hoping they would just say, hey, Michael, we've got an extra half hour. What's your favourite flavour of crisps? And I thought, aye, what about the biscuits? That's what I was.
Get the biscuit chat going.
I thought, fucking hell, it's not just us then.
He says, at one point, he says, this is the greatest show on earth. Which is, they say that about the Super Bowl. Aye, that is literally what they call the Super Bowl. So it's no this. You're at the Champions League, Michael. It's a different fucking sport altogether. It's like he realised it himself as soon as he said it. He's just fucking hopeless. Sorry for listening, Michael.
I forget who it was. There's every chance it was Michael Owen, but when they were talking about like the difficulties with the crowd and whatnot, they mentioned the fact that there was 75,000 folk there. Like there'd never been 75,000 folk at a football game ever.
Aye, especially there, eh?
Aye.
Right, well, we're talking about Hibs. Probably should, eh?
Aye. Things are ticking along nicely over at East Mains and Easter Road.
How'd you get that?
Well, just in relation to some of the transfers that have happened.
Just in case you'd been.
No, I'm not in. I'm not in the know.
No, we're not in the know. Well, I was going to say, yeah, so tonight's episode, as folk anybody's listened so far will gather, we've not got very much Hibs news to talk about, so we'll cover off the signings to David Marshall, Nohan Kenneh, could have called Kenny, I'm presuming that's how you pronounce it, and also the rumour about Cole Stockton, which was started and then finished earlier on today. So we'll discuss that, and then we've got a few points that we've not got to over the last few weeks of Twitter that we'll touch on, and then we'll hang up, and then we'll go and record Longbangers Extra Time, where we'll conclude our player review of the season with midfield and attack. You get a team score. So, starting with the goalkeeper and David Marshall signed. Colin, what did you make of that?
I'm quite happy with it. I mean, he's always been a decent keeper, from what I've read, and seen for Scotland, because obviously he's not played in Scotland in the league for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years or something since he last played here.
Yeah.
Experienced. Don't know what his distribution's like, no idea. So
I was about to ask you.
Because I guess it'll not be good enough. Don't get me wrong, it'll not be good enough. But if he makes some saves in that, then it appears to be a good signing. If the plan is, we're not going to get much more than 2 or 3 years at him. Is that 2-year deal he signed?
Yeah.
At best, if he's done well, he'll maybe do another year or something and play till he's 40. So I don't know if the idea is to do some kind of succession planning with Dabrowski or keep Macy as a number 2, because in reality, Dabrowski, at his age, 24 or something, he should be playing. He should go on loan. And that might be the succession plan, 2 years' time, come back with some experience. And when I say go and play, no for Dumbarton and all that, like where he was before, but actually top-end championship or bottom-end premiership. That's where we should be looking to put him on loan. Wraith Rovers or St Johnstone. I mean, they're losing their keeper, I reckon.
Yeah.
Clark's away, so like somewhere like that, get him out on loan for a season there and see who he actually is at this level. With the idea coming back when Marshall jacks it, because otherwise we'd have a 26-year-old keeper that's played about 2 or 3 games. Or what would they play? 5 games?
Six.
6
Remember
games.
we spoke on last week on that
Aye,
basis.
because he made the. That's right. He made
Aye.
he made the list, but he needs to go and play games. So that means we need another number 2. Might be too expensive to keep Macy as number 2, but we need a number 2 keeper. If Marshall assumes going to walk into the team and get Dubrovsky out playing.
So what you were saying there,
needed a number 2?
do you know what? I have actually the last day or two. It's been a bit weird. I don't know why. My stomach's been a bit funny.
Same here. Funny
It's probably the fucking dregs of the amoxicillin I've been drinking.
I've done it. What did you make of David Marshall signing?
I think first and foremost, like it's probably that experience that we talked about in some of the later episodes, Longbangers towards the end of last season, which I know sounds pretty bizarre the way I'm describing it because it was only a couple of weeks ago. But we talked about having too many development players and probably needed a bit of experience in there, a bit of football cliche like put the foot on the ball or whatever. But what Colin was saying there about Dubrovsky, and he could be 26-year-old and I've only played so many, like a handful of games in the top flight, but then is that not how Matt Macy ended up coming to Hibs? Because he'd only ever played like a handful of games for Arsenal, but somehow he walks into Hibs. I've never been
but then
comfortable.
Decided it wasn't good enough. That's what I mean.
I've never been comfortable with the way that, similar to the way that Jamie Gullen came back to Hibs but didn't get played. Dubrovsky got brought back in when Marciano, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dubrovsky came back in the January transfer window. And I think by that point we knew that Marciano wasn't signing a new deal, so it looked like Dubrovsky was going to be the number 1. And then Matt Macy turns up, and it's no disrespect to Matt Macy, it just seems that Dubrovsky's kind of got the short end of the stick a wee bit, despite having had decent plaudits from the different clubs that he's played for. Like he's paid his dues, like he's due a number 1 start.
Yeah.
And I've not got any problems with the signing of Marshall per se, but it's also that kind of, well, we've had goalkeepers there and we're just not going to play them. Like, so Matt Macy, like the signing of Marshall, what does that mean for Macy? Does that mean he's number 2? Does that mean he's away? Don't know.
Would he be number 2 or will we keep that as right back position?
How do you mean?
It was Harry Clark, yeah.
If we're redoing them.
Oh, number 2.
That,
no, right,
sorry,
okay,
John,
okay,
it took a wee while to get there. I'm sorry, that was...
Wow.
I'll take that one.
That was even longer than Albatross. Albert Ross.
Albert Ross. Do you think we're hoping for the sort of impact that Alan McGregor and Craig Gordon have had at their respective teams with David Marshall and viewing it as that sort of signing?
Yeah. And at first I thought, that'll be good for Dubrovsky. I'll be working with him every day in training. But then I thought, you know what, he needs to play games. You know what I mean?
Both the way. I think a lot of the time now the players that go out on loan train by Hibs through the week.
Aye, if they've got a part-time team. But if he's got a part-time team, he's not playing at the level. He needs to play at a higher level than that.
Yeah.
To test him out. I think that's what I think. There needs to be they need to work on some kind of plan with it. Whether he works with him for the first transfer till the Christmas one and then goes to loan for the second half of the season and then I don't know. But he needs to play games at that age. I know he's a keeper and he can play longer and all that, but he needs to start playing some matches.
Would you be happy if Hibs having signed Marshall, they were to play Dubrovsky in the League Cup, like to get him experience that way, and Marshall was number 1 for league games?
They're not doing that, because he's going to play the League Cup's pre-season, so you're going to
want to get warmed up. Aye.
They'll look at a game and then they'll want the defence playing with the keeper that's going to be playing, so that they understand each other, communication and all of that. So that'll not happen until maybe the later rounds. But then if assume we get through, and then it might only be 1 game. So do you keep him just for the 1 game in the last 16? Or whatever it goes to after the group stages? No, it's too. So I think they need to have some kind of plan for him if they rate him enough, which they seem to.
See, the thing with that as well, right? See, when you get to the final, if you're lucky enough to get to the final, you will get yourself the best chance of winning the trophy. So
Yeah.
ideally, you would play at best goalkeeper in the final.
Aye.
But
Look
if
at
you've got
final, didn't they?
yeah, but if you've got a League Cup goalie, then you're going to piss somebody off him. So you're either going to
Yeah.
weaken your team to play the goalkeeper that you didn't rate as highly as the goalkeeper that you're picking every week, or you're dropping that goalkeeper who's been in goals all the way through the tournament for the final, which is about to piss him off.
Aye. See if you're Dubrovsky with Macy having come in to taking the number 1 jersey, and then Marshall's come in, who's presumably going to take the number 1 jersey. Would you leave? Would you look to leave?
Probably.
I don't know. I would be looking to see what's the plan here. A lot of clubs. Think about how many clubs, right? Now, I'm saying this with no knowledge at all, as usual. How many clubs have actually brought a keeper through their youth system that gets a game? It doesn't feel like it happens very often to me. I think the only obvious one I can think of is Craig Gordon. But how many other come through the youth team and actually go straight in to a first team, a team that they came through the youth team from? Because even Callum McGregor went away, St Johnston or somebody.
Yeah, he was at
before he-
Dunfermline. Yeah,
That's
you're,
right.
you're right.
So I don't think many keepers come through. We tried it with Andy McNeil out of desperation because he
It was Malkowski.
Malkowski and all that. But it was, and he might have been no bad. Like, but he got thrown the wolves, didn't he? At the time
Yep.
when other goals would make mistakes and he couldn't take him back at the team and all like that. But there's no many, I don't think, that come through straight through. Somebody will prove me wrong and say you're talking shite, but I think goalies generally have to go somewhere else.
Aye, and you do have some keepers that are second choice their whole career. Sure, that's just like they
Yeah.
wait for their chance and then play a bit. Because I suppose for a footballer picking up that kind of wage and it's a specialist position, isn't it? You're either there's only one of you can
Yeah.
play. You know,
And
in
you
any
take it
given
on.
week. Aye.
That's it. It's not like you make subs and all that to goalies, unless you're taking the piss at any point in a game. Like you wouldn't bring a keeper on,
No.
just for the laughs. Eh? So it's not even like you can get them a half each, or well, you could, but nobody does. Because if you
Yeah.
let a goal in, then everybody's going, "What are you changing it for?" Disrupting it. So
Aye.
I don't know. I think if I was Dubrovsky, I'd be looking saying, "What's my development plan, or whatever they call it in football circles? Like, what's the idea here? Is there a succession plan?
When
and
am I
what's
getting a game plan?
Aye. Am I getting to play the cups? Am I getting to what am I getting to do? Like, am I going on loan? Are we coming with an idea to come back? Am I going to get to work with David Marshall?
So I suppose
What's
that's
the
a
goal?
question that I'd ask as well. Is like, obviously Hibs have got the new manager in. Who signed Marshall? Johnson's going to have an idea of, or he's going to run the rule over the players that he's got, and he's going to make a decision on who he wants as number 1. But I'm guessing the Hibs haven't signed Marshall to sit on the bench. So he's, I don't know, just thinking it through, like it just seems a bit odd. Like, didn't get me wrong, like on paper, Marshall seems like a good signing, but also who signed him? Like, or is that another transfer committee thing?
I'm
Well,
sure
it was in the
Maloney probably
pipeline
lined
for
it
him.
up, and the manager
Aye.
gave it. Yeah, that's
It was in the
So-
pipeline for a while, wasn't it? So
Aye.
definitely predates Johnson's arrival, but I think he had the option to veto it. That was the way they positioned it. But if I'm honest with you, I'm quite cynical with that statement. I don't think it holds any water, because if I put myself in David Marshall's shoes and you say, we sign this contract, pre-contract to come to us, and you go, I ain't bothered with that. It is dependent on whether or not the new manager wants you. I'll be going,
Aye.
well, I'll sign it now then. I'll wait and I'll go and see what my other options are.
I
First.
wonder he might have. I wonder if he signed a while back on a pre-contract though, and then there's like a way you can get out of pre-contract.
Like a break clause, maybe.
Aye, because I'm sure that like Maloney mentioned he was excited with the people he was talking to and all that.
Yeah.
Some of the that he was lining up. I'm sure that was one of them because he'd played with him.
Aye.
Maybe a 2+2 and coming out with 5, like, but it seems an obvious one that Maloney would have went for. And
So
then
does-
a pre-contract, because you can sign a pre-contract anytime after January, can't you?
Yeah.
So does this mean that Johnson has to play him as his number 1, even if he doesn't fancy him, even if he doesn't want to?
How'd you get
No.
that? Like?
Well, what if Johnson just doesn't fancy him? What if he doesn't want to pick him? And we've got David Marshall sat on the bench.
That's what they're saying. He didn't have to sign him. They could have. So there must have been a break or something, and
Right.
he could have just said, "Nah, I'm happy with the 2 keepers I've got," which I don't think anybody would have agreed with. Like, based on the fact you want David Marshall. Do you think David Marshall's better than A2? Yes, I do. Everybody would probably say that.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could probably talk for the majority on that front this time. Based on word of mouth, probably more than anything, because I've certainly never seen him play for Derby or QPR or whatever else he's been.
Johnson said he'd try to sign him before at one of his previous clubs, so he obviously knows what he's all about. I would say it's definitely an upgrade on Macy.
So that was going to be the question I was going to ask next. In playing the awkward fucker in the room, do you think we're all agreed that we've strengthened the goalkeeper's position?
Yeah,
on the paper, aye, definitely.
I would say so. Right, if we move on for the goalkeeper, we also signed the same day as well, which was a bit of a surprise because I think everybody knew David Marshall was coming, but then Hibs sort of dropped the bombshell that they were announcing another signing later that evening, and it was Longbangers Kenneh, and I'm hoping I pronounced his surname. It's like I always read it as if it's maybe a Dundonian saying pie.
Like pie.
Kenneh. Although my initial reaction was to kind of think South Park and Kenneh and that. So Longbangers Kenneh, who appears to be a bit of a coup, John. Not like a. I'm not using slang there. I mean, a coop is. I can't remember who was our coop. One of the pundits called him the coop the other day.
That's one of those funny words. It's got a bit of double meaning. It can be like a takeover, or it could be like a really good acquisition of someone, like a military coup. Anyway, no, it seems like folk were. Some Leeds fans were a wee bit surprised that he's come up here because I think they were expecting he was going to end up playing for them. But I was having a wee read. There was a thing on the Hibs website the day they had an interview with a boy called Joe Donoghue for the Yorkshire Evening Post, and I think for what he was saying there, he was kind of at this stage of his career, at least, he'd been playing in the under-23s, and he'd featured in the first team squad a couple of times. So he was seen as like the backup to the boy in the first team. So no, like it's an interesting signing. So I think he was touted as maybe being a right back, but I was reading another article with the Secret Scout, and it was saying that he definitely doesn't want to be playing right back. Like he wants to be either sort of defensive midfielder or centre half. So it looks like there's a bit of versatility there. I was thinking about him as a defensive midfielder, how he might fit with Newell, Doyle, Hayes, or whoever else happens to be playing.
But on that point, Colin, do you think this sort of signals a change of direction for the Hibs midfield?
Well, when it goes forward. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I've not read anything about him. I've not watched any clips. We'll just wait and see what he looks like. Aye, good pedigree in that. It's one of them. It's the same when Henderson came in. You get all the fans of the club that he played for telling you how good he was, and you think they never got anywhere near your first team. Like Henderson at Celtic, like, oh, what a signing, fucking better than his brother and all that. And you go, he's played fucking 5 games in 10 years or something at Celtic. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it, because I certainly don't understand the ins and outs of the Hibs youth. Like, so if we were to lose somebody to somebody down south, I wouldn't be one going, oh, amazing, he's so good on the ball and on the half turn and all that shit you hear folks saying. And it's just, you don't know, like, you're just trying to be an expert in something. So, don't know, no idea. It was like I seen a clip of something. What was that I was watching? Seen Tam Cowan on something. It was one of these talking heads things. Oh, it was about the Scotland in the playoffs. And they were talking about Bertie Vogts when he was at Scotland, and they went through like rafts of players.
Aye.
And they just made a boy up and started asking the boys on their show about what do you think John McDonald then? And they were like, just switching to pundit mode, start going, he's a good player, good pedigree, and kind of all this stuff.
Aye,
like,
playing at a good
made him up
level.
fucking 5 minutes ago. Aye. And it's a wee bit like it's total unknown, and I don't think there's many people experts on the Leeds under 23s. Is that what he came for? Is it under 19s? Well, don't think there'll be many folk expert on that can tell us much. The clips you see, it'll be boys football he's playing.
Yeah.
So we just need to wait and see what it looks like when he plays against men up here.
To be fair, I think the boy Joe Donoghue did say that that he would probably need a wee bit of time to bed in to be playing senior football, because he's not been playing senior professional football. It's been at the level that you mentioned there, Colin. So it might be one of those ones where, and we should probably set this expectation for ourselves that he's maybe going to have like a couple of good games and a couple of bad games, but neither is the indicator. Like, he's neither brilliant nor shite. Just let him play football.
Yeah. It also has the I don't know if it's like how would you position it? Do you know when somebody arrives and you have like an expectation because of something that's nothing to do with them? He was a wonder kid on Football Manager, not last season, I think the year before. So if you signed him at 16 or whatever, so anybody who's like a Football Manager player will probably know the name. And
like sign him straight after Freddie Adu.
Aye,
was it Freddie Adu? No,
it was. Aye, back in the.
Show your age there, Colin.
Aye.
Do you remember a boy that played for? I think he played for Thailand, but he was like 15-year-old, so everyone could sign him. He just went. I think his name was Rungrat Sammy, but his stats were ridiculous. He was just basically like a cheap player. Like, he existed in real life, but obviously nothing ever happened to him.
I think his pals called him Mustang.
Aye.
Hope so.
Do you ever see the boy? I forget what country came from, but it was definitely an Asian country. I want to say it was like Thailand or Singapore or something. But he got stopped at Border Patrol because the name on his passport was Batman bin Superman, and apparently it's quite common over there to name your kids after Western superheroes. But they were like, no, this fucking passport's definitely dodgy.
What superhero would you name yourself after, your kid after, John? If you had adopted that tradition,
what would I call him? That's a really good question. I don't know. I'll need to think about that one.
Is that a good question? Is it?
What about you, Colin?
I'm trying to think of the name of the girl that was in The Incredibles. So there was Elastigirl, that was the mum. But who was the daughter? The one that could like disappear?
Invisible, Incredible, I don't know.
It was a good film, that though. I'd probably just go Wonder Woman or something. For me, just to bum them up again.
Aye.
I'm just looking at that character's name.
I got quite excited with the boys signing anyway. But Ken is excited. Not so much for the Football Manager thing. Although before that was the first message I got, I think, for Josh, was like, he was like amazing for me, and a Football Manager. I was like, oh, that's good. So, because I know the researchers for Football Manager put a lot of time and effort into. They do know like a lot of the youth players.
How does
but
that?
That's just to start them off, though. Like, who decides how they progress?
So see the folk that get linked up with clubs, like I'm their official Football Manager researcher. What does that role actually look like? Does that mean that they just play the game and like go through the player database?
No, so I think what they do is they work for the club. This is my understanding. Actually, Lee McLennan does it for Hibs. You get Lee on Twitter; he's quite happily talk about it. I think they kind of get a contact at the club, and then they work with them and kind of go through the players with them. And
it's quite funny the way you get Hibs fan rating Hibs players, so you automatically take your out of 15 out of it. We've not been marking them high, but you're biased. So you're like,
but it gets calibrated.
He's
so
Oil's 100.
Aye, 100 pace.
They didn't mark him against Salah or somebody or like that. Fucking.
But I think it all gets calibrated. I think it goes in like a main researcher, and then they calibrate it to make sure that everything's balanced off a bit. So,
what does? I'll need to ask Lee, but I wonder what Football Manager has that other scouting and databases that professional football clubs have access to don't. Because surely data. Aye, but what I mean is, like, surely data about football players is data about football players. Is it not all the same stuff?
Aye.
Like, what is it? What's unique about Football Manager that makes it important that there's roles that allow you to communicate with football clubs about what you're seeing in the game?
I think just licensing and stuff like that. I don't know, John.
Licensing and that.
Licensing and that. I don't know. Fucking hell. I'm not Sir John Commodore 64. Anyway, it looks like a sort of defensive midfielder, which I think we've been crying out for, like a proper one. since
Is this the
Bartley and Mulligan
six
left.
that they're
Aye,
talking about? Aye, the number six.
Aye.
So the number 6 is a more defensive midfielder. 10, we all know what the 10 is, and the 8's like box to box. Aye, is this what the new
Aye.
number thing is?
So I think your 6 is Bartley, 8's McGinn, and who's the other one? The 10 Scott Allen. That's probably how you would describe them.
Is the 6 a modern day version of the Matty Jack role?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, aye, right, okay.
Aye.
Just to clear
What's
up any
the- what?
confusion for me and anyone else that's wondering.
Is McGinn a 6 or an 8?
7.
McGinn was a 7.
6.5.
That's a 7, aye. I reckon anyway, if anybody is playing bingo, then I hope you've hope you're nearly there. Right, other deal that was announced this week was Paul McGinn getting an extra year on his contract. Thoughts on that, John?
I think I'm all right with it. I'd also, like, I know that we've got competition for places that we talked about before with Cadden and Clark. The question mark, obviously, is Clark, whether he's going to be here for the new season. But I think one of the things that we talked about before, Colin, you mentioned it last season with the ill-fated European campaign and the rest of the season, like we lacked bodies. So I know there's going to be people that are going to be questioning it because it's quite the culture with Hibs now, where everything, doesn't matter what the club are doing, is just shit. So signing Paul McGinn will be shit regardless of what. But if nothing else, he's an experienced professional, knows the club, and he has a body. Like, he can definitely step in. And I made a joke to Colin and a few of the boys in the Quick Bang group chat that he was among Hibs' leading scorers at the end of last season. So I think he's a valuable asset to have.
Aye, it was right up there. What were you,
Aye.
Colin? Any advance on that?
Nah, John's right. That we do need bodies, and look at the injuries we had last year. We're moaning about not having bodies. Well, if we've got a third choice right back that's as good as Paul McGinn, then we're all right. But I think the way I've read it is we had to sign him because he must have triggered a clause in his 2-year deal that he played so many games that he had to get the extra year. So there's nothing we could do about it. Either way, so just get on with it. He's not bad. He seems to be a good lad around the club and all that. Plays plenty of games, chips in big goals. Doesn't really make many mistakes. Does make mistakes, obviously, but
That makes it sound a wee bit Winston Bogard-esque, like he's just here picking up a wage. Like, he's contributed. Like, he's not just here picking up a wage. It was like a mutually beneficial. It's worked out to be mutually beneficial for playing.
He triggered it because he played enough games. So he is obviously contributing, or he wouldn't have played that many games.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought it was a handy player to have around. Probably won't start because he's not getting in ahead of Clark or Cadden, I wouldn't think.
He might play centre half, I suppose.
Could do.
Depends who we've got.
Good backup anyway. And just to wrap up on the sort of the Hibs chat before we pick up points with Twitter, Cole Stockton was reported this morning to be close to signing for Hibs, and in the Daily Record, depending how much value you put in the Daily Record one way or other, later on, same day, dismissed their own report and said they weren't signing them after all.
Did Scott Burns write both articles?
Oh, I don't know who did it. I hope so. I don't even care if he's with the Record, is he?
Oh, I thought he was. Did he get banned for? Was it Punditry got banned from?
Aye, he did.
Aye.
Aberdeen banned him, which is decent.
Aye.
We've done him as a true or false, eh?
I thought we should have done it. True or false?
Scott
Scott
Burns.
Burns.
Must have.
Yeah.
Must have.
True. Aye. Cole Stockton, anyway, say played a bit for Hearts. I don't think he scored. He seemed to be pretty shite when he was up here, but I think he's had quite a good season. But it's just gone. Are you disappointed that we're not signing him? Either of you?
To be perfectly honest, before I heard his name mentioned, and I think the headline I saw or the chat on Twitter that he used to play for Hearts, like I wouldn't have known that the guy actually existed or had played for Hearts before this morning. Wasn't bothered, wasn't interested. The fact that he played for Hearts, I think, is largely irrelevant because he's almost like, we had a bit of a crack at Kevin Van Veen at Motherwell for the amount of clubs that he played for. And Stockton's got a similar record for what I saw on Wikipedia earlier. The fact that he played for Hearts, like I say, is pretty irrelevant. Like, he seems to have come onto a bit again, just purely from Wikipedia, he seems to have been a bit of a late bloomer in terms of the number of goals that he scored for Morecambe, I want to say.
Yeah, it's very is. Aye.
But other than that,
Oh, I remember the name when he was at Hearts. That's it. And one thing's just triggered in my mind. See the one that blacked up at their Christmas party? Like, and got away with it. Like, nobody made any deal about it. I think one of them done that a couple of years ago.
I think again.
It was fancy dress. One of them had all this gear on. And I was like, why isn't anybody outraged at this?
maybe because they can't remember the boy. He played like 16 games or something.
No, but at the time, he was there. At the time, it was him. Just Googled it. Yep.
Oh, aye.
Yeah.
Mental. Aye, just if they bothered.
Yeah. Nobody didn't seen that. Made the papers, obviously.
Imagine if that was Malky Mackay, we would all be fucking would still be talking about it now. So don't sign up Hibs for that reason. For that reason alone. Right, we'll go. There's probably not much else to talk about Cole Stockton. It doesn't look like it's happening, so we'll not really waste any time on it. A couple of few points from Twitter. Mel Clements, who winds Hibs fans up more on match day, the team performance or the Twitter admin still tweeting?
It's a funny one, that, eh? Like, that's the don't dare tweet Hibs.
Don't dare
Seen
tweet.
that? Don't dare tweet. I think I mentioned it last week when I was banging on about everything else. And then if I didn't tweet, it'd be like, fucking no communicate with the fans.
You need
There
to be
was-
fucking
Pay my money.
apologising.
There was somebody
Refund my bus fare.
had a go at Hibs.net. You know, on the last day of the season, there was the thing for fans that had been lost, you know, family members, the wee memorial sort of display thing that they did, and it was really well done. And Hibs had been tweeting about it for ages. It was a bit on the website. I think I had an email about it as well, so you can get in the ground early for it and that. Somebody went on Hibs.net and were like, fucking, they could have told us about it.
Aye.
Fucking, not a peep from Hibs about it.
It's
in
a
advance.
fucking disgrace. I never got to see my tribute.
I had emails and everything about it,
Aye.
I'm sure.
Short of them coming tapping your door and telling you you might want to leave a bit earlier today, boys. Mel Clements also asked, does this season take the shine off what were 3 very nice strips?
It's a good point. And the shorts were interchangeable as well with the kits, which was quite.
Oh, the yellow
Quite
with the
good
green
this
shorts. Aye.
Aye, the all white, the Real Madrid style strip, and then you had even the green. You could do the green shorts with the green top. It was all part. You couldn't do the yellow and the white, but other than that, they were all. You could flick around between them. That was quite good.
Mind how promising it felt on the first day of the season when we saw Hibs coming out in that strip, winning the game in the manner that they won it in.
Came from behind to win, mind? Like after all that chat about
Yeah.
the winner, they come from behind, and
It looked like Real Madrid. And interestingly, I believe that Real Madrid watched that game and took inspiration from it, and look what happened to their season. So just shows you.
There's lessons to be learned.
Kaiser Soze asked, does Charlie Adam collect scrap in his spare time?
well,
Collects it and then chews on it, I think. Big about the neck on it.
he's away for Dundee now, eh?
He is, aye.
Possible signing, maybe.
Oh, Dinny. Really no. Could you imagine a Hibs team that's got David Marshall, Aidan McGeady, Charlie Adam? Like, how many other 36-year-old ex-Old Firm players can we buy?
We pretty much like played just a full-size Legends team. Do you know, like you put it indoor at training and get Sky to come and show it, or Premier Sports, they'd be all over that fucking Celtic and Rangers, Legends. It's just fucking Hibs training.
I wonder what Jan Vennegoor of Hesseling's up to these days.
Get him I think Chris Burke's at a contract. He's been binned by Kilmarnock. Yeah, could fire him on the left and McGeady on the right, or whatever way around, whatever they do. Adam in the 10 row. Not bad. Good restart.
Hessling's a wee bit too old. He's 43.
That's younger than me. That's disappointing to hear.
That's horrible to hear.
Fucking hell. Ian T asked, as a relative comparator, to what extent has Hibs season mirrored the fate of the cryptocurrency Luna?
Is that the one that bombed? Is that?
I'm guessing so.
Did they not?
Did it started well?
Did they all bomb? Have all cryptocurrencies taken a bit of nosedive recently, or was it just that particular one?
I don't know.
They're all shite anyway. I can't understand how folk make money off of something that isn't real. But then, I suppose money isn't real. It's just printed.
That
Ignore me.
scored them on go on that type of thing. That didn't last very well, did it?
No. Shock.
Imagine if you're
See, if
sitting-
that's one of those things where if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, what's the point?
didn't take that line of thinking into everything, John, because the stuff that you will do as an adult and as a parent that is more complex than a 5-year-old will understand, mate. This didn't make that
So-
even Robert. That's my only bit of advice for you tonight.
You're both
Up
clever
it a bit.
guys. You're both clever guys. Go and explain to me the concept of non-fungible tokens and how they have any value.
They don't. It's a totally House of Cards type thing. Isn't it? It's like there is no value to it. It's just fucking the idea that some idiots that are
Ponzi
trying to
scheme.
do like effectively.
But should we release one?
We should definitely release one. 100%. 100%. We are already working on it.
See, when you said explaining something simple to a 5-year-old, did you watch Peter Walton try to explain that offside decision last night?
Fucking
to,
hard work.
at half time. But I loved it because he started by going, "It's quite simple, really," and then he went on to just confuse you even more. And you're like, I thought I had it just before you started talking. And tell me it was really
You
simple.
could just see the quantum mechanics coming past everyone's eyes, eh?
Everybody's gone, everybody, like that rule's been changed and nobody knew about it. Like, because which Liverpool player would have deliberately played that to the Real Madrid player? Like, they just
Oh, exactly.
didn't happen. So they said accidentally, like, well, if you actually fucking passed it to him, surely he never meant it either. Like, because why would he?
Aye, but like, I understood what he meant because it's when the Real Madrid player knocks the ball forward. That's when he's offside, right?
That's when he's saying he's offside. So that's what I meant.
Aye, right. So that is
That's when he's saying it.
because the Liverpool players never meant to play the ball into Benzema's path, so it effectively kind of ricocheted off of them. It means that they didn't count that as like a second phase of play. It's still that same, considered the same pass for the Real Madrid player. He wasn't actually passing it either, he was just knocking it towards goal. But that isn't in the rule. So Benzema is still offside. Had the two Liverpool players just knocked it forward themselves, he's no offside. He's no offside and the goal would stand. But it's the Real Madrid players' touch is the only
Because
one
the Real
that's
Madrid player
important.
passed it.
Aye.
Do you care what the irony of the whole thing is? That the lino had flagged it correctly in the first place. Didn't need VAR.
Yeah. But then they've only got themselves to blame, eh? It's like the boy that cried wolf. Fucking linesman, they get it wrong all the fucking time, so I've no sympathy for them. To go and check
Like
on
that
the VAR,
Nottingham
didn't
Forest.
trust them.
You seen that clip of the Nottingham Forest boy today? You seen this, John? The playoff
No.
final. Boyden, who were they playing? Huddersfield. Whoever they were
Yep.
playing, ran in the box, just got tripped up, blatantly on the edge of the box. Booked the boy for diving, like fucking penalty. Go to VAR, still go, nah, not a penalty. It's not obvious decision to overturn it. It's fucking obvious. Like, anyway, we've got that looked forward to next year though.
I actually mind VAR, eh? Like they still get it wrong, but they get more right than they get wrong,
Well,
and more right than the referees are getting right than I. So
Kim, what it makes it's that thing about not an obvious decision that seems to make things complicated. Just say you got it wrong. That's it.
aye,
Like not, well, I see why you got it wrong, because that's what you're saying by it's not obvious. It's wrong, but come on, can't really overturn that because it's not that obvious. You know what I mean? That's the bit that makes it stupid.
I didn't realise that Nottingham Forest were in the Premiership.
aye, they're now.
They won the day. 170 million game they're up to now on that. It seems to go up like how many Rangers and Celtic fans were in Seville. Every time you read about it, it goes up another fucking 10 million. You're like, fuck's sake. Next season it'll be a 250 million game.
Aye. Right, we'll do two more and then we'll wrap up and we'll go and do Longbangers extra time. So both of these for Ian. Still said if there's one film that sums up Hibs, what would it be? The good, the bad, and the ugly accepted.
Have you seen the
Incredible earlier?
Incredibles.
Have you seen the film Das Boot?
Yeah.
Aye, that's how Hibs. That's how following Hibs can be like absolutely battered. The glimmer of hope destroyed.
Aye, we've just been watching Stranger Things. It's not a film, but that title was probably applicable to Hibs season this season.
It does get a bit upside down.
Okay. Nice reference, John. And the last one, if there is such a thing as the Hibs secret sauce and it contributed to us winning the Holy Grail, what was it, and what's lacking in the current Hibs setup?
Secret sauce.
That team had like a leadership throughout it, and like leaders that led by example, like your McGinns and all that, Bartley, that kind of, I hate all that shit about and tune with the fans, but like they understood what it meant and they led by example. And this team didn't have that type of leader. And I only mentioned two of them. There's more than that in that team.
Like they didn't accept that they got beat. You know, like they didn't lose games, obviously, but it was very rare that we just gave up without a fight. That team definitely had that about them. That this season we went a goal down. You can't. We were fucked. So
they also had a couple of years of playing together and no radical changes, just little tweaks, little improvements along the way.
Yeah.
Like I think even when you look at, like, we probably got more time out of that particular team, like going into the 2017 season. And again, that was kind of supplemented by additional players. But that was like, we had that era and then it was done. Like we needed to like focus on a rebuild, and that rebuild has never really quite taken shape because of chopping and changing.
Aye, spot on. Right, we'll wrap up there. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you don't subscribe already, go on to longbangers.hubwave.net and sign up. It's only £3, not £3 a month, John, as we might have described it on Short Bangers on Thursday. You'll get access to all the exclusive content that's on there at the moment, plus any new exclusive content that we will put out over the close season and pre-season. We're just about to go and finish off our review of last season, player by player, giving them marks out of 15. So if you heard our mid-season review at the winter break, imagine that, but considering what's happened since then, just to build the excitement for it. Right, John, Colin, thanks for your time. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next time.
County line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't